I was just saying that the West Coast of the United States has basically already seceded from the Union by resisting Trump's bans on things like climate change, but mainly on immigration and on ICE roundups and on a Muslim registry. I don't think any of those states, progressive as they are, Washington, Oregon, and California, I don't think any of them plans to go along with the Trump agenda. Now, why would I use the name of he who should not be named on this recording? Well, because these are historic times and we really need to wake up to where we are right now. What's going on? What's going on? Don't you understand? These are the times we've been waiting for. And because we find ourselves here, we're the ones we've been waiting for too. So, about the only way to proceed is to embrace your mythopoetic self. And don't fall into line with the dichotomies and the diatribes of the popular press. They're trying to create a reality TV show like Celebrity Apprentice, except this time it's at the level of so-called national leadership. And you're supposed to watch that every day like you watch Downton Abbey, or like you watch The Flash, or some shit on TV. But you don't watch this unless you want to get hypnotized for life. Unless you want to get put in the prison of Azkaban along with the Dementors, you will not watch this TV show. This is not a TV show. This is life. This is reality, which basically means if you don't like it, you better change the channel. So the question of this recording is, how do you change the channel on this TV show, which is not a TV show but reality, in fact. Just cancel out the TV part. This is reality. So, as long as we're unafraid to change the channel, we can do things like California and Washington and Oregon have done, which is to issue states' rights authority over the federal government, to turn it around, to flip the tables back on the feds, because the feds will now sue to overturn in U.S. Supreme Court all of those executive orders at the state level. That's what will happen. Trust me, I predict it. I'm going to post this little audio thing as soon as we can, so we get that down in the record that this is February 20-something. I think I've lost track because my life's been crazy. It's 26/2/26/17. I guess all of our lives have been crazy since the election, since especially January 20th, when all these damn executive orders started coming down. And I do say damn with some emphasis, because even though I'll be branded a liberal for saying this, nobody should mistake the fact that fascism is not a right-wing agenda. Fascism is hyper-conservatism, that's true, but it's so far off the scale that it's basically a takeover of the entire government by industry. This time it's brazen because there's no Obama there to cover it up, and because the Republicans are more firmly in the pockets of industry than the Democrats are. But everybody's fucked up now because fascism is in vogue, bro. So how can Rex Tillerson even be the Secretary of State? That right there is cognitive dissonance of the highest order, unless that guy always had political aspirations. He's not a career politician, he's a career oil man, which means the United States policy of state now is oil. At precisely the time we don't need it to be. Because climate change is proven. In fact, James Hansen of NASA the scientist most outspoken besides people like James Lovelock and others, so Bill McKibben, he said a long time ago, 15 years, guys, maybe before this is irreversible. And then like 10 years goes by and he goes, guys, we kind of like have to act now. Got like 5 years. Recently he's been saying, oh, dude, forget it. Runaway climate change. Fait accompli, bro. It's happening. Now, you're not even allowed, if you work for the EPA now, you're not allowed to use the word climate change, and if you're a speaker, invited guest into an EPA seminar or meeting where you're informing the EPA of anything, you will be told you're not allowed to use the words climate change at all. These two words have actually been forbidden from the Environmental Protection Agency. They're not allowed to be used in publications, in correspondence, anywhere within the precincts of the EPA. Now, isn't that a Republican's wet dream? Golly, because then you don't have to think about anthropocentric anything except be a good worker, make your money, pay your bills, have a couple of cars and a garage to put them in. Everybody has that, right? Who's well off. Isn't that the dream now? American dream? What about tribalism? What about social democracy? What about putting restrictions on bankers from being speculators? What about ending fiat currency? What about reforesting the clear cuts to restore access to commons food production, commons values systems? The only reason I can record myself with any success is because I can never stop talking once I get going, but taking a deep breath, listen to Richard for a second. So, in essence, this is not a diatribe, although some will argue I am just delusional. Well, I have the soul of a philosopher, and there's no way I would be saying these words if I didn't mean them wholeheartedly. That we have gone beyond right wing and left wing. We have gone into a dimension now which can only be called a coup of the corporate state over the entire federal government of the United States. This is not a minor incident in the history of this country. It will go down in history if he continues past 4 years as a dire time indeed, because the military-industrial complex will want their piece too. Now, don't underestimate what I'm trying to say here. The military-industrial complex wants to grow. Now, how does that happen? How does a military machine manufacturing arms and bombs, how does that grow? Well, by creating conflicts through various interventionist methods and acrimonious positions like Trump just did with the Prime Minister of Israel. He said, I will make sure, I'm not doing a good Trump imitation, but I'll make sure there will be no, let's do him like W. Let's pretend Trump's W. Now, I'll make sure that Iran never gets the bomb. I'll make sure Iran never gets the bomb, except that we Americans, we say Iran. Anyway, that was a wholly irresponsible thing to say, and here's why. John Kerry, no matter what you think of Hillary Clinton's allies and all of the left-leaning progressive Democrat establishment, he negotiated a peace accord in the Middle East that was the closest thing to a hope that the Middle East has seen in a long time. They worked hard on it. They got a lot of nations together. I used to watch it on TV because I would watch this international news channel every night, a world news channel. And I used to get European news. I watched the whole Charlie Hebdo thing go down on that. Boy, it was graphic as heck. But look, that's the whole point. There doesn't need to be a Charlie Hebdo every year or every 6 months. And guess what? Even though there's limited incidents of terrorism around the world. Neither of those conditions warrants the kind of bloated military budgets that we have. We are fighting a war in Yemen by proxy right now through Saudi Arabia, by funding them, giving them arms. We don't fucking fly the missions, but we give them everything else, including intel. And we'll send commandos there to help and shit, which is what Trump did. And it was the worst thing the United States ever did since Jimmy Carter sent helicopters into Iran to try to free the hostages. And who knows if those things were sabotaged or not. Those helicopters went down in the desert, but listen, maybe Trump was sabotaged. Let's explore that, just so I don't sound like a lefty. I don't want to be a lefty, I want to be a centrist. Let's be funny and talk about this. What if Trump was sabotaged? What if somebody gave him bad intel from within the establishment to try to fuck him up, try to take him down? Maybe there are people after his ass, and he can't trust anybody. Maybe he's in a den of thieves. Maybe he is a pawn of the highest order in a terrible vice that he put himself in there because he wants to be famous and do shit, whatever he wants to do. Anyway, what I want to do is what he is trying to do, which is set a national agenda that is palatable to at least 3/4 of the population, not just half. How about at least 85% of the population? You know, the Quakers don't do shit until they all agree. That's called unanimity. This country ought to have ultimately aspired towards Quaker unanimity without the Quaker part. Nobody does anything till we know what it's going to do to the 7th generation. Unto the 7th generation, which basically means you better be damn careful what you do with any of your power, with any of your resources, with any of your people. Don't vilify certain classes or types or religions of people, because that's not American either. I was reading about Andrew Jackson last night, whose home I went to, because there's a Tennessean like me. And in essence, he said no to the Rothschild Bank, and he was asked on his deathbed, what did you do that was like the most distinguishing thing in your life? He said, I killed the bank. He killed the influence of European banking institutions of usurious practice and worse, duplicitous nature into the fabric of the United States economy. And he said no to that. He said no to that. He said no to that. He said no. And he killed it. And somebody tried to shoot him once, who was later under interrogation said to have been hired by very, very high up European types who promised to protect him if he was caught. Isn't that crazy? Andrew Jackson, but the pistols didn't shoot, by the way. The guy's pistols failed to go off, both of them, and he was caught. Now talk about a reality TV show. Let's go back to Andrew Jackson walking down the street, or actually he was driving a carriage with his wife going to somewhere. And some guy just jumps out and tries to shoot him, but both pistols don't go off. So somebody tackled him to the ground. Well, guess what? Lincoln was a victim of the same thing because he stood up to central banking. He tried to get loans from central bankers to help finish the Civil War, and they said only at 24 to 36% interest on all loans. And he said, fuck that, usurious shit. He said, fuck that. I'm not kidding. Probably said, fuck that. Honest Abe. And so he created his own $400 million, almost $500 million United States-backed greenback economy, not European Rothschild money-backed usurious system, but specie it's called, but actually specie is coin. But when you have paper that is